I hate what they do to Chris Brown, bro.
Right, 'cause this was what?
He's next under Michael, bro. As far as performing, as far as, bro, Chris Brown is that nigga. Bro, Chris Brown is a bad motherfucker.
You put Chris Brown above Usher?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can see the argument for it.
Yeah.
You put Chris Brown above R. Kelly?
Performance.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, performance.
Yeah, R. Kelly doesn't dance.
R. Kelly, they just lick his tongue. And lick the towel.
Well, yeah. I mean, Suge Knight actually talked about it. He basically said, you know, there's a double standard where they're not forgiving Chris Brown, but they let Dr. Dre do the Super Bowl. And Dr. Dre beat up D. Barnes back in the day. You know about that, right?
I mean, I've heard. I heard.
He beat up a TV host named D. Barnes. It's a real thing.
I learned from your interviews, all this shit. That's, you know, when I watch you, I hear all the Dre
it's a real
stories.
thing. She actually, I mean, when he did a documentary, he even brought her on to talk about it. Some real shit. It's not some made up
Double
shit.
standards, bro. Like,
well, but I think like also, you know, really what did it for Chris Brown was the photo.
yeah.
There's no photo of D. Barnes beat up.
Yeah.
And when you look at a lot of these other domestic violence situations, there's no photos. That photo was ugly. Like both of her eyes were essentially, you know, swollen up. Had that photo not come out, I think that nothing would have happened at all. I think he'd be at a Michael Jackson level potentially right now. But that photo will you know, that photo was a motherfucker. And look, I interviewed an investigator who was on that case on Chris Brown's defense team, and he basically said that Chris Brown was attacked first by Rihanna.
When they stopped her and took her in because of her injuries, you know, Chris had injuries, but they weren't seen for several days.
Okay, because the story was that she was beating him up as well.
Yes.
How bad did she beat him up?
I haven't looked at the pictures, but I have his pictures in my file at home.
So he had bruises and scratches?
He had markings, you know, again, he's kind of I don't want to say a tough guy, but he's not a 90-pound weakling.
Right, but Rihanna's actually pretty big also. She's like my height. I met her before.
And it's a confined area. They were fighting in the front the only part of this rented Lamborghini.
Right.
And, you know, again, just back and forth. Now, according to Chris, she started it and he was defending himself and kept telling her to stop and stop and stop. And I get it. And, you know, but the police, again, it's the same thing we talked about before. They arrest first and investigate later. And she had markings on her and Chris left the scene.
She put, you know, people need to stop like saying that this doesn't happen. A lot of times the girl is the aggressor.
Right, a lot of times you gotta get a bitch off.
Yeah.
Oh, you gonna have the black guy.
Exactly.
They got some bitches that punch the shit out you.
No, Chris Brown had marks on him as well. They
You
weren't
got
as
a
bad.
bitch that punch the shit out you.
Oh yeah.
You let Christian Rock punch on your motherfucking ass.
Yeah.
Boy, your ass gonna look like you been in the room with Mike Tyson.
Have you ever been around Rihanna?
Nah.
Rihanna's big. She's bigger than you.
I was at a game one time when
I interviewed her back in the day. She was with heels. She was my height, and I'm 6'2".
yeah.
And she's big framed. She's
Yeah.
not a dainty little girl.
Yeah.
Rihanna could beat up some men.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. I feel that, bro. I feel that.
You know, so now it's up to the man to respond in a minimal way. I understand it,
Right.
but you know, like for example, I interviewed Roger Bonds, right? He used to be Puffy's bodyguard.
Right.
And he told me flat out that he'd be in the car with Puffy and Cassie, and Cassie would just smack the shit in his face. And it would smack Puffy in his face. And then
Right.
he would jump in the back seat and they would start tussling and he'd have to roll up the windows and people would be watching. Not that I'm saying that that's right by Puffy's, you know,
Right,
but I mean,
right.
you mind your business and a girl punches you in the face.
Yeah, man.
Sometimes you just react.
In relationships, all that, you gonna have them feisty type of women who, you know, they gonna do it. That happened to me a couple times, bro.
Yeah.
3, 4, 5 times, different women.
Yeah.
You just gotta know how to, you know, not inflict harm on them too much, but You gotta know that. You gotta know that
Yeah.
that little restraint move.
Yeah.
Sit your motherfucking ass down.
And you have to take a step back.
Yeah,
and
you
realize,
ain't gotta punch him and do all that. You gotta
no.
put him in that motherfucking boosie oosie.
Right. I've been in fucked up situations too.
Yeah, man.
But
A woman will fuck
you gotta,
you up, man. A woman will.
Right. But you do have to realize at some point that unless the woman has a weapon of some sort, they really can't do that much damage to you, not like a man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they might maybe bruise your eye a little bit, but they can't like knock you out. They can't knock a tooth out.
Right.
You know, so you have to kind of take that into account. But as a human being, sometimes when you get attacked, you don't even think about what happens next. You just react.
Right.
And then,
I don't agree with it, man. I used to get on one of my cousins' ass, bro. Like he'll beat him. Bro. His bitch get out of line. He go put Timberland boots on.